SEC football fans, welcome to the very first episode of the 2021 football season of Best in the West. I'm your host, Kevin Bohannon, and with my co-host from the Tide Talk podcast, Jake Thomas. Jake, how's it going?
Man, it's going great. I am super excited to get July over with because we know when August gets here, fall camp starts, then we're right on top of football season. So, let's push through to August and get ready to set for September.
Man, the excitement's in the air. It's SEC Media Days. We got to find out that your quarterback at Alabama has probably been making more than any other assistant coach in the SEC right now with the new NIL. That's got to be the biggest story in Tuscaloosa today.
That's crazy. This NIL thing, it's doing wonders for some of the guys on all the teams, and it's great to see that they're finally able to make a little change, make a little money for their likeness and everything. So it's going good for some and better for others.
No doubt. And we want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. Of course, part of the Believe Podcast Network and presented by Bet Online. Let's talk about the quarterback situation. We're going to talk about there's quite a few new quarterbacks in the SEC West this year. I know we've got to break in a new one. You guys got to break in a new one. Auburn and Ole Miss return their starters. Of course, Matt Corral is getting a lot of national attention. But we'll break down each team, kind of what is going to be in the fold for the quarterback situation for each club and how far the new face is going to take them. Let's start with the number one team in the nation, the number one team in the SEC West, looking to go back-to-back for the first time since the 2011-2012 football season, the Alabama Crimson Tide. Talk about the situation at quarterback, Jake.
Last year, a lot of people was talking about, why are you picking Matt Jones over Bryce Young? Well, it worked out really well for Alabama.
Yeah.
Now Bryce Young is pretty much the guy. There is, a guy behind him named Jalen Milroe that we're really high on, but this is Bryce's team. And yes, he don't have a lot of experience. He did get in a few games last year, but, of course, that was, he just handed the ball off, mainly. So I have always said that I believe it's going to take this offense 3 to 4 games to get their feet wet with a new offense coordinator, new quarterback, new running back. I mean, we got to replace Najee as well.
Yeah, so, and talking about your offensive coordinator, what a great hire in Bill O'Brien.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hope it is. I'm kind of concerned about that just for the fact that, he didn't really have a good NFL career, but he was a head coach, and maybe he's a better coordinator, kind of like maybe Will Muschamp is. I think Muschamp's a better coordinator than he is a head coach. So we'll see how that goes. But going back to Bryce, this is his team now, and I think it may take a few games for him and the offensive line to gel together, but when they do, it's lights out, I believe, for everybody.
Look out. Yeah, and he's got Brian Robinson back in the backfield. Of course, he was behind Najee last year, got some good carries. And then you got, of course, the number one recruiting class in the land. He's got Michi out wide. So that there's no shortage of weapons. What kind of quarterback is he going to be? I know he's got a really strong arm. Is he going to be a dual threat guy? Or is he going to be a pocket guy?
It looks like he's in the spring game he was kind of a pocket guy, but if he needs to, he can scramble out of the pocket. And when we got to replace 3 offensive linemen, so we're gonna have 3 new linemen this year. He may be scrambling the first couple of games just to So we'll see how his legs are. But a couple of times that he ran last year, he's a pretty solid speed guy. And if he needs to get out of the pocket, he can to make a play. So I'm not really concerned about that.
Yeah, Arkansas fans know your pain on that, having given up 34 sacks in 10 games. Felipe Franks was running for his life, and then he turned in a 4.66, I believe, at his pro day. So, but, yeah, we're breaking in a new one as well. Of course, everybody knows it's KJ Jefferson's turn, and we got a little glimpse of him last year in the Missouri game. He was 18 for 33, 276 yards, had a few touchdowns, and then added some yards on the ground. And talking to Steven a couple weeks ago about what the offense would look like with KJ, I think it's going to be more of a true RPO offense. You're going to have a lot more quarterback run aspect of it. and I think it's going to make you're going to see more of Kendall Briles than you did last year. The offense did, of course, it took an uptick from the previous administration. There was nowhere to go but up. But
Right.
averaging 25.5 points in SEC play is nothing to shake your head at. So we're really excited about KJ. And then you got the young guys behind him. You got Malik Hornsby, who got in some quarterback run packages last year at the goal line. Really good athlete. He's put on some weight. And then you got Cade Renfro, who came over from Ole Miss, who a lot of people are really high on. Lucas Coley, the freshman, I think he's up to 205 right now. So a lot of depth right there. But hopefully KJ can get it done. He really reminds me how he runs the ball of Cam Newton. And Cam, anytime he ran the ball, he was going to get 5 yards because he just fell forward for 3 of those.
Right.
So I think you'll see a little bit better run pass balance in the offense this year. So hopefully looking forward to it. For the first time in 19 years, Kellen Mond is not the quarterback for Texas A&M. What are your thoughts on A&M? And it's widely known around national media, local media, that A&M is the number 2 team in the SEC West right now. That's pretty much locked down. Jimbo Fisher's got a lot of his recruits in. They got Spiller back in the backfield. What's the quarterback situation for him going to look like this year?
That's it's kind of odd that your top 2 teams in the West have got to replace a very vital position, and this happened this year. But A&M, they got a lot of talent, and the new guy coming in. I mean, honestly, if I'm Jimbo, I'm just going to tell him to hand it off to Spiller for most of the time, because I mean that dude is a beast. But it's still, I believe, Alabama at 1, and like you said, A&M at 2. Then after that, it's just a dump. Everybody else is just free for all.
Yeah.
But I mean, Jimbo has a team that can challenge Alabama this year. Now, people probably on the Bama side is going to be mad at me for saying that, because last year we beat them by 24, nearly 30 points. And they had Kellen Mond, but I mean, they return a lot of great players, and Spiller's probably one of the best running backs in the league right now.
Yeah, Spiller had a little over 1,200 yards last year, if memory serves right. Haynes King is the leader right now in the clubhouse for that quarterback position. Zach Calzada, I believe, is the backup that they're thinking of. So let's take a look at the rest of the conference real quick. Of course, LSU had one transfer out, TJ Finley. Could be in the running for a job at his new school. But LSU started quick last year with their quarterback, Miles Brennan. Yeah, over 1,100 yards in 3 games, 11 touchdowns, 3 picks. Of course, the big upset that they had at the beginning of the year. But talk about Miles Brennan and what he brings to that Tiger offense, and hopefully they can get back to their gunslinging days of 2 years ago.
A lot of talk this offseason has actually been on Max Johnson and how he could, step up and be the guy this year for them. And I believe today, Ed Orgeron, Coach O, had said that he has 2 national championship caliber quarterbacks today at SC Media Days. I mean, he's got 2 great quarterbacks.
Yeah,
no doubt. But Brennan, he's more of a pocket guy. Johnson, if you saw some of the his highlights last year, he's an RPO guy, and when he was in, run the RPO, it really moved that offense when it could become stagnant a couple drives. So I really think he's going to be the starter this year.
Yeah, it seemed like they just were more efficient with Johnson in there last year, and Brennan, I think, a lot of defenses now. Ole Miss saw it. You get drop 8 back there, and it gets a little tougher back there when you got just trying to throw it downfield every play. So I think it adds an extra dimension. LSU is always going to have good running backs. The one this year, Tyrion Davis-Price, comes in 6'1", 230. It seems like they just cycle them out down there in Baton Rouge. So looking at the rest, of course, Matt Corral, All-American, All-Conference, should have a good year. Returns for Ole Miss. Is Ole Miss one of the top 3 offenses in the nation right now?
Boy, that's a good question. They have the potential to be just because they have Lane Kiffin as our head coach,
Yeah,
and as an Alabama guy, and he was our offense coordinator for a few years. I absolutely love Lane Kiffin. That was a great hire for Ole Miss. I know the Ole Miss guys down there and gals are loving him. But yeah, I believe they have the potential to be a top three offense. Now defensively, it and they got to get tougher on defense. But I mean, they're going to score points and score a lot. The only question mark with Corral, it seemed like last year he was either going to throw 6 touchdown passes in the game, and the next game he was going to throw 6 interceptions. So
yeah,
he's got to cut down the interception rate. But if he does that, look out. Ole
yeah.
Miss
We were the benefactor of the 6 interception game. We want to thank Matt for that. And I know Steven, it's a tough subject for him, but overall, he threw 14 picks on the year. I know 6 in that one game, but so he had a decent year outside of that game. But John Reese Plumlee, the 2-sport star, is a capable backup, really good legs, very athletic, and then you're going to have a little bit of stress taken off of Corral this year. Jerry Neely's back, and I just rave about the young man because of just how much of a speedster he is. He's an athlete, takes pressure off the offense, and he can take it to the house anytime. So,
right.
Can they take the next step as a team? And Steven said, "What if I told you that Ole Miss's defense come in ranked 60th?" I said, "That's a win for y'all on the year, and you might win 10 games."
Mm-hmm.
So, I think you would agree with that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if they're coming in ranked 60, that's huge for them.
Yep. Well, let's talk about the other Alabama team, the state of Alabama team.
Let's not.
Yeah, let's not. For the purposes of this episode only, we will.
Right.
Auburn, the Brian Harston era starts. No more Gus Malzahn, no more Gus Bust, no more hurry up, no huddle. So, what is Auburn going to look like under Brian Harston? He's a quarterback whisperer. Quarterbacks have done well under him. Can he get Bo Nix to his potential this year?
He has a potential to be good this year. Bo has been, just an average quarterback, and he's had some flashes. A couple years ago when he beat Alabama, I think he threw for like over 300 yards down in on the plains and beat us. But he's just, there's some games that he looks incredible in. There's some games he just tapers off and is just awful. But they still got Tank Bigsby in that, running back slot. And
yeah.
I would like Harsin come in at a good time because he's probably another one of the top running backs in the league. So you got that to build around. You also got TJ Finley, who you mentioned earlier, who has come down to Auburn. That may push Bo to get a little bit better because competition breeds competition.
Yeah. Joey Gatewood was not competition for him.
No. So he may actually become better with this competition and Finley, being right there on his neck, saying, okay, I'm going to fight for a position, for your job this year.
Auburn, of course, under Malzahn, they were always in the conversation of were they going to be there at the end of the year to compete for an SEC West championship, national title. And one way or the other, they always fell off. Could barely get to 10 wins. That's what did Gus in down there is the expectations are so high. And I've always said that that's the Saban factor that you don't see as much.
Right.
He's coming in this year. Harsin is with an Auburn team that's picked to finish anywhere from 4th to 6th in the SEC West from any publication that you look at. Maybe that's good for him to not have the expectations early on. You think?
Yeah, for him especially. But year 2, year 3, he's going to have to improve. If they look up and my brother-in-law is a huge Auburn fan, so I was asking him the other night. I said, "What is the best and worst case scenario for y'all this year?" He said, "Worst case, 6 wins and 6 losses, and best case, a 10-2 season." I'm like 10-2. That's a lot. So maybe their expectation is still high, but I don't think he has a team right now offensively that can keep up with the A&Ms and the Alabamas at this point. If he recruits well enough, he might, because the defense is there for Auburn. I
Yeah,
just don't think the offense is there right now.
yeah. They return 8 starters on offense, 6 on defense. It's going to be interesting. And that you brought it up, that was going to be my next question. How is he going to recruit? I know he was at Arkansas State, North Carolina before that. Of course, his run at Boise State, and mentioned that. But how is he going to recruit with the big boys in the South?
That has been one of my biggest questions since they hired him. You know, he could probably recruit Montana and Idaho real well,
Yeah,
but you're stuck. You're that's 2 and 3 star guys. You
yeah,
might get a 5 star out of there every once in a while. Your 5 star elite guys are in Florida, Alabama, Georgia, Texas, places like that. You've got Louisiana. You've got to recruit well in those places. He's got a good support program around him, coaching wise, that can recruit. So I think he's going to let them go and get on the recruiting trail, and when they need to to meet a recruit, he will meet them in person. But I think he's going to let pretty much his coordinators who have recruited here in the South go out and get the guys that they need.
yeah. And I know, like you said, a lot of eyeballs are going to be on him. Year 2, year 3 is when he can really make his bank and possibly push Alabama once again. Another consensus pick this year, kind of the cellar dweller of the SEC. For once, it's not Arkansas, and that's good considering 4 wins in 3 years in the SEC, and last year we won 3 under Pittman. I know we're looking forward to the next chapter. Is the culture going to be any different than it was? It really takes 2 or 3 years to get the culture built up there, but they're going to be battling. I think our ceiling is 7 wins this year. We got a couple tough schedule once again. That's like it is every year in the SEC. So, any thoughts on Arkansas from your end and anything coming out of Alabama this year?
I'm going to be honest. Sam Pittman was a great hire, and I've loved that pick. From, I'm sure you do, but I believe Sam Pittman's going to get it done there. And we did a show last night on Top Pod, and I actually said on there, if I'm not mistaken, that I believe Arkansas is going to be the surprise team in the West this year. They might not beat Ole Miss and all that, but I do think they're going to at least get 6 wins, and they're going to go to a bowl game. So I have a lot of hope that Sam Pittman get it done, because he's tough as nails, man. I love that hire that y'all got him.
And he doesn't put up with a lot either, and that's the thing. He wants you to be accountable, and that's one of the biggest things that we didn't have under the previous regime was accountability. It was kind of just free for all. I'm here. I'm your buddy. Let's go.
Right.
All of the gimmicks and everything in the world. But I really believe that they have a leader now. That's a true CEO type. My dad was an offensive line coach for forever, and I know how those guys think and how they. And like Pittman said, a lot of O-line coaches aren't looked at for head coaching jobs. So he's hoping to, open the door for that to happen in the future. A lot of those guys are veterans. They've been through everything. They've seen the offensive schemes change 4 and 5 times over their lifetime in their career. So they know how to do a little bit of everything right now.
Yeah, I want to make another comment real quick.
Yeah.
The lowest point of Alabama's season is going to tie into Arkansas. Lowest point, or not season, but the history of the program was when we lost to UL Monroe. Alabama should never be losing to UL Monroe. Arkansas should never be losing to North Texas.
Yeah.
So that was, and I think it was right on the wall then when that happened. Y'all needed a coach. Y'all went out and got one, and boy, I'm going to say give him another 2-3 years, and you may be seeing teams like Bobby Petrino had be ranked, be fighting for a top spot. And
that's the goal.
Yeah,
he keeps surrounding himself with really good coaches, and that's what a really good head coach will do. He'll get his lieutenants lined up, and having Barry Odom there going into a second season. We knew he was going to be there for 1. We were hoping for 2 now.
You got it.
I don't think we make it to 3, but we're going to enjoy him while we can.
That's right. Yeah, so that's a huge pickup for you guys. But There, the West and as a whole, you let some of these guys. We haven't even talked about Mississippi State yet, but
Yeah,
you let these coaches, these great coaches that they have lined up, now the West is going to be a free for all in a few years. Granted, maybe 2025, 2026, maybe that on the Saban's last little bit of his
yeah. Let's
contract.
go around.
Right. We may have a drop off, but right now I don't see a drop off happening anytime soon. But you're still going to be pushed by the Sam Pittmans, the Lane Kiffins, led
Jimbo
old
Fisher. Yeah,
Jimbo, and the old crazy
Mike
guy
Leach
down there. Yeah, Mike Leach.
retired.
Let him get his guys in. And my gosh, the West is going to be a free for all in a few years, I believe.
Yeah, Mississippi State's always been able to, get some athletes. They've been able to get good recruits down there.
Mm-hmm.
That they scared me under Dan Mullen because I thought Mullen had them if he was there any longer. But
Mm-hmm.
the facilities average at
Right.
best. Starkville's not the best place in the world to go. So it's going to be interesting to see. Let's talk about their quarterback situation real quick. Will Rogers came in,
Mm-hmm.
in relief last year. Had some terrible games. I
Yeah.
think he's a capable quarterback, but I think he's towards the bottom as far as if you want to rank SEC quarterbacks 1 through 14, he's
Mm-hmm.
towards the bottom.
Yeah. I agree, and he just got to, they just got to get an offensive identity. I know they like the air raid, and Mike Leach did bring that air raid, that horn out last year at SEC Media Days. That was kind of funny, but he just got to get his guys in. I think Will Rogers will be capable of giving them 4, 5, 6 wins, but I don't think their ceiling with him is about there. He's going to have to get somebody that fits his system.
Yeah, and this was a topic of contention in Arkansas last year because everybody was wanting Mike Leach. Everybody
Right.
was wanting him over, before the Sam Pittman talk got there, and we knew he was going to be our guy. But on the Hog Talk, we talk about the air raid, and we thought it wasn't going to work last year. It did for a little bit, but once you kind of figure it out, yeah, you're going to have the yardage. You're going to have these unbelievable stats. Throwing for 600 yards in a game against LSU, being one of them.
Right.
But I don't think it's gonna. The staying factor isn't there with me for this conference in that offense.
Mm-hmm. I agree. He's going to change a little bit of his ways. You can recruit great talent, and as an SEC school, because it's the best conference to play in. But he's going to have to either make it work, which is like you said, some games it did, and then some games it was awful.
Yeah.
So if you got a defense and they figure it out, like you mentioned earlier, you throw eight guys, in the backfield, and you have nowhere to throw to because everybody's covered. How do you game plan about that? So he's gonna have to figure that part out because even I always said even Vandy's defense, because it's an SEC school, it's deep,
Yeah.
it's dangerous.
Yeah.
So it's going to be hard to score, and against the SEC defense. I don't care who you are.
Yeah, and Derek Mason wasn't a pushover.
Right.
He's a defensive mind at Vanderbilt. Of course,
Mm-hmm.
he's hired at Auburn this year as defensive coordinator. Let's shift a little bit. Let's talk about some key non-conference games. We know Georgia and Clemson are going to battle it out. That's going to be one that's on everybody's radar. Alabama starts out their conference year or non-conference season with the Hurricanes and De'Aaron King already coming out talking a little bit. What's the Bama pulse on taking on Miami this year?
No, there's already been a lot of national talk that they could upset Alabama. I just let it go out one, in one ear and out the other. I don't think they've got the horses to keep up with Alabama. They may keep up with us for a half, but honestly, Alabama's defense is probably the best it's been since 2016, and
Wow.
everybody knows how stacked that defense was. I mean, we returned Malachi Moore, who's probably one of the best star players, in the country. We got Jordan Battle back. We got Will Anderson. I mean, who's an absolute stud. He's only a sophomore. Christian Harris. So I mean, there's talent on that defense. We're going to have to ride the defense early this year, and I think we will. The only question mark for me on the defense is who's going to be that number 2 corner.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing. It could be Jalen Armour Davis. It could be Kool-Aid McKinstry. There's several guys that could take over that role and be really good at it. But it's going to take some time.
Yeah, and I think losing a guy like Surtain, you're going to have some of those guys step up, and even some of the freshmen that 5-star, 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 4-star, those guys are going to have to step up and live up to their star rating.
Right. I agree 100%. But the defense is sad. It's just the offense that I'm worried about. And like I said, I think it's going to be 2 to 3 games, maybe 4 to get it really going where we like it to. And that third game of the year is against Florida at Florida. So I'm hoping by then they have it going, but we'll see.
Yeah. Going down the conference, Texas A&M, they got a pretty cupcake schedule. Colorado is their Big 12 opponent this year. Interesting game with LSU. They're taking on UCLA. That's always a good one with Chip Kelly out there. What are your thoughts on that game early on?
I would give the advantage right now to LSU. Chip has kind of built the UCLA program up a little bit, but they're still not where they were back in the early 2000s when they was really good. So I give the edge to LSU right now, even with their quarterback situation.
Yep. Ole Miss has Louisville starting out the season. I believe they play on a Monday, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, wow.
I think, we'll both agree. Ole Miss kind of has it right there. I think Louisville's been down after Petrino left, so it's going to be interesting to see how they stack up in the ACC this year. Auburn, you got Akron, Alabama State, and then at Penn State. So the big talk is that the Big Ten is breathing down the SEC's neck.
Right.
4 teams ranked in the top 16th end of the year. They're deeper. They say everybody plays at least a decent brand of football, and that they're deeper. It's just SEC always has Alabama, who can carry any conference, but they have Georgia and Florida as well.
Right.
To talk about that game, Auburn and Penn State, the Battle of Blue and Whites, it should be a good one.
Yeah, and they're already talking about it being a whiteout up there. So, Penn State's going to be ready to go. Honestly, I haven't really seen what Penn State brought back and how they looked last couple of years. I know there was one year, it might have been last year, might have been year before, where they played Ohio State close.
Yeah.
But other than that, to me, you just give it off to Tank Bigsby, and he's going to run. He'd probably have 150, 175 yards against Penn State. Just by
halftime.
By halftime, yeah. Because I'm sorry, the Big Ten defense is not an SEC type defense. I'm sorry, there's no other defense, anywhere that's that comparison SEC type defense.
Yeah, and of course Mississippi State, they have their usual suspects in Louisiana Tech, but they do play NC State is their other Big 12 school, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens on that front. Arkansas, tough game this year with Texas, and we get to renew a rivalry. That's a game that a lot of Arkansas fans think that we can get taking on Steve Sarkisian. And one of the things I was going to ask you, having Sark there at Alabama, what can we expect from a Sark team this year? I don't care if it's Texas or anybody else. What is that team going to look like?
They're going to be competitive, I believe, because I think he's done a lot of growing up, kind of like Lane Kiffin has. But they're going to struggle a little bit just trying to get an identity offensively and get his guys in. Yeah. But I really think Arkansas has a great chance to win this game, just because I don't think Texas is as good as they have been in the past, and Arkansas is on the up and up, and I think this will be a great win for you guys. I believe talent wise, it's probably even. Texas may have a slight advantage there, but if you got a good coach, and it all just takes just one fumble in the wrong direction or one interception to change the game around. So, I think Arkansas is going to win that game.
Yeah, the good thing is we do have them at home, and
Mm-hmm.
after we get a tune-up game with Rice, so we're hoping the offense is clicking, everything's clicking, and everything's good. We're starting out 2-0. So, well, Jake, hey man, I've really enjoyed it tonight. I think we got a lot of good stuff out there for the SEC West fans,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to thank Willis Digital Media, and for Jake Thomas, this is Kevin Bohannon. We'll see you next week on the Best of the West.